What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Deren Huang. So, Deren, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, especially because I don't know if you know about this, but today we are joined by my very favorite member of the audience. And why is my favorite audience member here today? Well, it's because obviously this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate investors, that's buyers, sellers, syndicators, operators, and all that sort of thing. And you might ask, why would you do that? Well, the answer is if you've ever been involved in an off market deal, also sometimes called private or 506B syndication, then you know that the SEC requires that you have documentation of your prior substantive relationship, or else they'll get ants in their pants, and we don't want that, do we? But before we get too excited about business, Deren, do you want to say a thing or two about yourself?
Yeah, so I started in real estate 2016. I was in Tulsa at the time, not thinking that I would gonna was gonna stay here. My wife was here, she grew up here. I thought I was gonna only be here for 2 years, but I had to chase her to get her to marry me. And now 10 years later, I'm still here. So that's just a little bit about me before we get into real estate.
I love it. I love it. That's pretty similar to my story with Taiwan, and we'll talk about that after. But we got to talk about the five distinct motivations. I think Deren just revealed one of those inadvertently. But before we get into those, I got to say, but wait, check your eight. Now, Deren, I don't know how you are with technology, but maybe you can see through the camera and into the user's device down there, but there might be this hideous subscribe button if they haven't, done. Okay, it's a stupid joke, but I do it in every episode just to kind of lighten the mood. But the five distinct motivations. I've talked about real estate and buy boxes with all sorts of different investors at this point, and everybody has their own unique why, but I found at the same time they fit pretty neatly into these five different categories, and they really tell me why somebody is going to go through with their next commercial real estate deal. And so that's the important thing. These things take months to close, years to end up going full cycle. So it's important to know what's going to keep somebody sticking it through. So the first motivation is preservation of purchasing power. What on earth is that? Well, some people don't have a W-2, a full-time job, and the way that they make ends meet is from the proceeds of ownership. So if you are just living off of the cash flow of your assets, why would you be going through the hassle of buying another asset? Well, there's a few reasons. One is if inflation is rearing its ugly head, that's going to eat away from the purchasing power of your cash flow. So it's going to be time to buy another asset. The other circumstance is if there's distress or an asset crash and you can buy at a steep discount, which a lot of people are projecting will be a lot of 2024. But if that's the case, then it'll be worth making a new acquisition. I'm not really at the point where preservation of purchasing power is really my big factor. My one is trading time for wealth. And to understand why I'm doing that, it all comes from my background in tech. Specifically, it's the CRM industry, which is putting together the web funnels, the online assets, and the CRM itself. So that's mass emailing 5 million people, 5 million emails a month, and millions to tens of millions a year. But as I got into doing that for real estate, I noticed that my boss, who was doing 10 house flip transactions a month for years before he even hired me, I noticed that his tax burden is way more advantageous because he's trading his time directly for wealth. In other words, deployed capital. So that's what I'm up to. I'm making that pivot for those tax benefits. But that's too subtle for many people, especially youngsters. Youngsters tend to want to take control of their schedule, and that might mean they hustle like crazy now so that they can fast track their retirement, or it might mean that they want to work fewer months per year or fewer weeks per month or something like that. But even though they tend to think that that's everybody, it most certainly is not. Some people are in this because of ambition. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And that's why they're going to hustle into their 90s. And that makes them fantastic members of your GP team. But there are other people who will also similarly be hustling into their 90s, but they've picked a sector of society, or maybe it's the environment, maybe it's animals, maybe they want to send people to space. But at the end of the day, if you want to make a big impact, there's a big financial component to that. And so you're going to need the use of equity multiples to pull that off long term. And that's why some people are involved in these transactions. So, Deren, of those 5 different motivations, what combination of those really jumps out and would you say describes you?
Yeah, so a little bit about my story is that I had actually hit financial freedom. So there was a point when I was doing residential transactions, that's where I started, that I was just buying for myself. I was just buying because I needed to hit this quote unquote number that was just out there because I thought that that was going to make me fulfilled. And so once I finally hit that number, I noticed that exactly what you said. I didn't have any time left because I was the leasing agent, I was the on-call maintenance, I was the real estate agent, showing, and then all these other things too, and trying to find the deal and fund the deal and everything. So when I started to hire people out, my cash flow bucket became less and less because those cost money. And so it finally culminated into about 2020 when I was able to quote unquote fully retire, having most of my the 4 hour work week, just like Tim Ferriss was quoting in his book. But I was really unfulfilled. And it was once again during a chaotic time, COVID. And so I jumped back into commercial real estate to do exactly what a lot of people do in my generation, which is to help people. So now I actually raise capital, I raise money, I allow people into my deals, whereas previously I was just serving myself. So one of our core values of our business is stewardship and servant leadership. And so once again, going back into taking more chances, coming out of retirement, that's something that definitely resonates with me, helping people get margin in their life and businesses, and then helping people with the skills that I've been able to create.
I love that answer. That's fantastic. But of course, real estate is a business, and all businesses have risks. And at the risk of sounding like everything's all rainbows and fluffy pillows and all that kind of sort of thing, one thing that popped out to me when I first got involved in a 506B deal, whoever the SEC, the securities attorney in the mix, whoever they were, they would insist that everybody who's involved fills out this really invasive questionnaire, financial questionnaire, asking all sorts of questions that you won't like. If there is no securities attorney involved in your deal, it might be a Ponzi scheme. It's really bad. Run, 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 run. So you should have been asked to fill out this questionnaire. But there's one question in particular when I read it, between my experience of building different online quizzes, questionnaires, and different things like that, and then teaching, the tolerance for risk assessment, I don't think it was really usable what the person answered with. So I developed my own question that's a fill in the blanks question. And it is, there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. So Deren, that can be inside real estate, it can be outside real estate, it can be both if you want bonus points, but what's too risky for you?
Yeah. So in general, I'll kind of answer this question. It is deals that you cannot add value to. When you're just waiting for appreciation, you're just hoping that the Fed is going to lower the rates or that maybe population growth is going to, bolster your asset. So that's kind of the general. Other than that, things that you don't have specific knowledge in. So for me, I'm a data guy. I'm also a person that adds value, has to have a component of adding value. So those two things, without those, I'm definitely not going to do any deal or even, consider.
I love that answer. And there's some harsh realities that are baked into those things. And the next one, it is another harsh reality is that you have to understand numbers if you're going to be effective in this business. Sure, there are some people who they're an outbound, a public relations person, and they'll only hone in on one or two numbers, and all of the different numbers are going to matter. And I should preface by mentioning that most of my guests on this show are in multifamily, which is apartment complex investment, but Deren focuses elsewhere, and he'll go into detail about that in a moment. But the numbers are still going to be fairly similar. So for anybody in the audience who is only listening and not watching, I'll read out this list of a dozen or so numbers. I guess there's more now, and they are cash on cash, IRR, cost per door, NOI for net operating income, going in cap rate, loan interest rate, especially important since they had cheap loans a few years ago, and those are all gone now. Next is the occupancy rate, which wouldn't, it'd be a little bit different for industrial, but average income, that's talking about in the area where the property is located, how much money are people making in general, the amortization period of the loan, the market rent versus the in-place rents, the population growth of the area, the sponsor record, which is how many deals have gone full cycle, how many deals have been done or are currently going down, and what sort of numbers they're getting, the waterfall or the split, and the last one is debt service coverage ratio, which is I guess your top three or something like that. Which ones really stand out in the headlines for you, Deren?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we are definitely a cash on cash return metric orientation. So that was really kind of hammered throughout my residential kind of career. Now in industrial, we see a lot of great opportunities for cash on cash, especially being in the Midwest. Another one that I really like, it's not on yours, but it's very, very similar to going in cap rate. We like the unlevered yield on cost. So a lot of people will say cap rate and unlevered yield on cost. They're very, very similar. It's just we want to know all the expenses, what our quote unquote cap rate is, including interest rate and or excuse me, interest payments and different things like that, not just that. And a lot of our deals are value add, so we're having a construction component to that. Another metric that I depend on a lot is what can I add value to? And so I asked that question, can I add value? And that's not necessarily a normal metric, but can I add value in property management, in leasing, in construction, in the actual deal flow, and different things like that? And so once again, going back to the previous question, if I can add value, we're going to take a look at it. If we can't, then what's the point of doing it?
I love it. I love it. So that makes me think the best thing to add as an entry is general weirdness. Because I think that's really, like, because there are all sorts of syndicators and deal sponsors where that's what they're after is a specific type of weirdness. Like I've seen some ex environmental engineers get into this where they're just looking for things that they can get paid to buy. But I'm just eating that up like a subscribe sandwich. That's my little way that reminds me. I guess it's time to pull out the Dan Does Deals Commercial Core Competency Cube. And it's got the 6 different roles in a typical apartment deal, commercial real estate deal of that type. There's a lot of it applies to industrial and other forms of commercial real estate as well. And the reason why this segment in every chance encounter, I used to be able to remember the name of my show, but whatever. So in every chance encounters episode, I go through all 6 sides because that will help you learn how to effectively communicate on the subject of a commercial real estate deal. And if you are going to even have part of your income depend on this industry, your ability to effectively communicate is going to make or break that ability. So if you really love this die, you get a kick out of it, and you go to dandoesdeals.com, you can download and print out your own copy. And like a dummy, I don't even ask for your email address. You should never, ever, ever give away your freebie without asking for some sort of contact information. But I really want you to print one of these out. So here we go. The first one I want to talk about is the repositioner. In a lot of ways, we all start out as repositioners because you're a deal finder, you're an acquisitions person. But the thing that you're doing, which Deren was very illustrating quite well, the repositioning part of it is figuring how can you fundamentally change how the business is run so that it makes more money. And there are many different ways to do that. Some repositioners do that. They're very heavily focused on their financier relationships. And what that's all about is if the repositioner can secure a more advantageous loan, that goes straight to the profitability of the building. So every repositioner has to have a vast network of financiers to make those acquisitions really, really work. But maybe that's too subtle for some people. So a lot of repositioners, maybe they'll focus on operations to stop those Benjamins from going down the toilet. We can't have that. But of course, there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and collecting rent and possibly mowing lawns, shoveling snow, that kind of fun stuff. Me personally, I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I'm from the internet. And so that means I have to help on web-based assets. I help with asset management from a remote base. But the other thing that I bring to the table, even in the larger multifamily deals, in other words, 100 units or more, where you're outsourcing the property management, somebody on the GP team needs to have some serious marketing chops because vacancy is the enemy. So that is another thing that I really contribute to my groups. But operations, there's only so much wiggle room you can do because commercial real estate is very competitive. So the next place the repositioner is going to look is to get the contractor team involved, to do some upgrades, value adds, renovations. But of course, you're not going to be gold plating the toilets because you're never going to get a return on investment on that. And more importantly, you have to be very careful about the way how much you spend on the contractors. Make sure that they aren't using subadequate parts. Make sure they're not dragging their heels and taking too long because it's time. It's the time value of money. So if you're like me, from the internet, you need locals. You need boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or so, because I'd still be stuck at an airport, push comes to shove, in an hour or two. So it's not going to be me. But when the repositioner has this ideal property in mind, turns around to the banks and financiers, these different lenders, these people who are not asset managers, they're not on the GP team. They say, hey, I got this perfect property. Let's say it's a 350 unit apartment complex and it's tens of millions of dollars. Do y'all have, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us? Well, there's one question that the financier is going to bring up. And even if you're in a mentorship or a guru education program, there's a good chance they're really going to gloss over this one. So pay attention. They're going to ask, who's the sponsor? Who's the KP? What am I talking about? It's best demonstrated with a hypothetical. So let's say you are a physician or an attorney or an engineer. You and your circle of friends decide, hey, let's take over that building right there down the road. Well, the problem you're going to run into is if you want to take over a 350 unit apartment complex, somebody in the fold has to already own a similar asset, a 350 unit apartment complex, or else you're just not going to be eligible for the commercial loan. On top of that, you need a certain amount of liquidity. And then between the whole GP team, you need a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you got all that, you got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Deren, you went into some detail about the ways that you got into this, and you've been doing some really exciting stuff in the last few years. So that's why I'm really excited to have you. But which boxes do you tend to focus on?
Yeah, so we right now are singularly focused in Oklahoma. So we have the boots on the ground, we have the local bank connections, we have operations in-house, leasing and property management, and then on all of our loans, we are the KP2. And so right now we are fairly small when it comes to the capital group size and syndication side, but we do it all because we're intimately familiar, and it's our backyard. So
Mhm.
we fill most of those roles, but I would say that my strength is in the acquisition side, which is trying to find the relationships and finding the off-market deals.
I love it. I love it. And it goes right into my next question, which is the buy box. Deren already mentioned the state, but the three main things we're asking for when real estate people are saying what you're looking for. First one's geography. So which state, but you're also going to want to know which county, possibly even which neighborhood. It's definitely going to matter. The second one is going to be size. Again, most of my guests on this show are in multifamily, which is apartment complex investment. And the way that you define size in apartment investing is unit count. And the reason why that's important is because the type of group that's going to take over a 10 unit apartment complex is going to be completely different from the type that's taking over 150 unit apartment complexes. Of course, you use square footage in some other forms such as industrial, but that size is going to matter. But the third one, I call it desirability. A lot of people call it class, but I don't like calling it class because it's two completely different things. The first one is condition. The second one is area. And when you're talking about the condition, we're talking about how old is the property, how beat up or, environmentally damaged is the property. And then, of course, is it no frills or is it full of luxuries and amenities? It's the desirability at the end of the day, right? But that's the condition. When you're talking about the area, especially if it's residential, like a multifamily, then it's going to be what are the school districts like and what are the crime rates like where the property is located. But the classic real estate saying of location, 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 that gets on my nerves because I don't think it's very informative, because really what they mean is traffic, traffic, traffic. If a lot of traffic goes by that location, it's going to be more desirable. So both the area and the condition are ranked the same way as in grade school, where you got A plus at the top and then A minus and then B plus and so on. And so as far as you guys go, Deren, what's your buy box? And, try to allude to those as much as you can, even though it's industrial
Yeah.
as your focus, or enlighten us if there's
Yes.
other parts too.
Yeah, so industrial is my focus. We're in Tulsa and we'll be expanding to Oklahoma City, and then potentially Northwest Arkansas. So really just being about a 2 hour drive from Tulsa as our headquarters. When it comes to the condition or the properties, we do have classes. So class A, class B, class C. Usually we're in this class B and class C. Industrial actually is the largest asset class per square foot. So there's a lot of different things in there, including, life science. So think of like laboratories, that's technically industrial. So we're really not that. What we're really interested is in, flex space. So flexible space, think of your Sherwin-Williams has a little retail in the front, maybe a little bit of offices, then the warehouse in the back. So this flex space is what we're really looking for. And yeah, that's kind of our buy box. We, when it comes to location wise, we're usually tucked away. The city doesn't want us right next to different neighborhoods. So usually I try to keep it within close to an airport or a highway. Sometimes if you're next to a body of water, there are ports, so you can be looking there. But right now our buy box very singularly is near the Tulsa airport, next to a highway. So easy access to, the rest of Tulsa. And then right now we're just in Oklahoma. So Tulsa and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that flex space is really hot right now, and so just to be
Mhm.
clear, then, so flex space means there's no residential, but mixed use would mean that there is, right? Or yeah,
Mhm.
okay, cool.
Mhm.
All right, so yeah, I haven't gotten involved enough in flex space, and it's a real exciting area as a whole. But let's talk about people. So one of the fantastic things about commercial real estate is because it's multifaceted, that means nobody's going to be all sides of the die for any meaningful amount of time. They're going to focus down on one or two of these different facets. And also because everybody has their own unique skill set, me, it's through marketing and the tech and the online funnel infrastructure, the mass emailing and all that kind of fun stuff. It really means that I'm always eager to talk to sponsors and KPs just because they've already got those fundamentals in place. Whereas when you're first starting up as a local or as a repositioner, you need grunts who can put in 80 to 120 hours a week. And that's simply not where I'm at my most effective. But Deren, I don't know if you have any 506B deals going on, so don't mention them as if you do, especially in the same breath as saying you're looking for any investors. But as far as who's on the die, who might be in the audience, who are you most eager to help?
Yeah, so right now we're just helping friends and family,
Mhm.
just kind of along those lines. We are still newer. We have taken a couple deals full cycle, even in our short commercial real estate experience. And of course, I have a lot of experience within single family residentials and small multis. But right now, we're expanding the team. So we just brought on a COO, operations manager, kind of like what I said. I am a visionary style. I try to track the deals. I can put forth that vision to see what it could be, and especially when it's a really tired old building or house. So we just hired an operations person. Right now, we are looking for more partnerships, more joint ventures before we get really into maybe a 506C. So that's one we can publicly share. But yeah, building up relationships for passive investors and then also joint ventures.
All right, I love it. I love it. And that brings us to the reaching out to us question. And I'm lucky because I got this super distinct last name. It makes me really easy to find, especially on LinkedIn, where I spend most of my social media time. But if you scan this QR code with your phone, that goes to the FAQs page of 506 Beamy, which is the platform where I help with your IT to keep your documentation of your substantive relations with all of your investors. And the idea being that if you ever get audited by the SEC, you need to be able to have documented proof that you actually knew the people that you involved in your deals, and more than just talking about their nice daffodils that they have in their window box. You need to have actually had conversations about their investing goals and their own, net worth and all that sort of fun stuff. So you don't want to end up in a situation where your laptop falls in the bathtub and then your documentation is gone. So that's why I offer 506 Beamy. But Deren, with a name that I know is very common in Asia,
Yes.
how should people reach out? Should it be through a website or phone number, email, social media?
Yeah, so two ways. One is my website, derenhuang.com. So DerenHuang.com. You can do two things there. Sign up for my newsletter. And then actually, I do have a link to my Calendly. So you can immediately book a call with me. And that's me, not my team or whatever the case may be. The second is I am very active on LinkedIn also. That's where we met, Dan. And so if you follow along, I just am pretty transparent with my journey, including the lease up process, the acquisitions process. It's really more of a story and just being transparent because there's not a lot of people talking about industrial real estate, and especially when they're only 2 or 3 years into the commercial real estate experience. So I'm really making the content that I wish that I had, 5 years ago before I jumped into commercial real estate. So those are two ways. Once again, my website, you can directly book with me, or LinkedIn if you just want to follow my journey.
Absolutely. And I can definitely vouch for that. That's definitely why I'm a loyal follower and engager on your content. But the last thing I have, it's actually not for you, Deren, it's for you in the audience. It's my public service announcement, which is if you've been watching this episode and experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs and maybe like migraine like symptoms, I'm confident it's because of the downright hideous subscribe button that's right there, and you can click it for free and it'll go away. Of course, I'm full disclosure, I'm biased. I want a lot of people to click on it because then YouTube eventually will start paying for these videos instead of me. And I think that would be absolutely amazing. And as far as the trade off to you, as I said, it doesn't cost you anything, but it means my videos may show up on your list of suggestions, which you can feel free to disregard. Because quite frankly, I just really appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Deren, I appreciate you joining me today. This has been great.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey there. Are you interested in commercial real estate deals? Would you like to build your network of investors and deal sponsors? Well, the best thing I can do for you is have you appear on a chance encounter interview as featured on dandoesdeals.com. You may know me from 506 Beamy or as a top commercial real estate voice on LinkedIn. And if I had to think of the top factors in your success in commercial real estate, my top two would be your network and your ability to effectively explain how deals work with effective communication. The 15-minute chance encounter format It checks both of those boxes, and they ensure that you can share your private deals with me without the SEC calling it a public solicitation. So hop onto LinkedIn. You can see my name is over here, Dan Friedenberg, and search for my name. And the best way to reach me and book that is to message me through LinkedIn. And don't worry, it doesn't matter if you decided to enter this space just last week or 2 weeks ago, or if it was decades ago. It'll be fun and easy to look good. We're just asking multiple choice questions based on your core competencies you look to contribute, your level of sophistication, all that kind of stuff. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye. Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay. Are you already logged into 506BME?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506BME, everybody.